Alright guys, welcome to episode 1. Here we have the Proxmox installer open and we're ready to install our first OS and basically start from scratch. We're going to use a terminal UI because we do not need a graphical interface as this is a headless server. So without further ado, let us get going. Terminal UI. We'll let this load up a bit. We're using the most recent release as of June 10th, 2026, which is Proxmox 9.2. Nothing too special about the installer, but I just wanted to have it shown here. I'm running the installer on a virtual machine just so I can show the installation process. After I finish this, we will wipe the server and start from scratch, and the next thing you see will be just me at my terminal window ready to log into it. So yeah, we always read these every single time. This is the only drive available, but just make sure you're specifying the right job or specifying the right hard drive, just because whatever is on that hard drive will get wiped. Set whatever time zone you want. That's my time zone for now. And temporary password, because I'm going to be using a 4-letter password for everything in this series. The username and server names and passwords, it's all just going to be 4-letter. It's just going to be Thor for everything, and it'll just make it simple. You have to set something here. If you don't want to use it, just set user@user.com. It doesn't really matter, unless because you're going to be the administrator and you're going to be the only one using it most likely, so it doesn't really matter, but you do have to have something in that field. Here we're going to leave everything as default, except for I'm going to set this as the host name is thor.lab. The IP address has been automatically assigned, and the gateway is just our router. Okay, and then we're going to install, and that's basically it. Once this is finished installing, it will reboot, and you just remove your USB from the USB drive from the computer, and then we will be able to boot into the terminal. And yeah, as you see here, the installation is pretty quick. Once it's done, I'll see you at the terminal. Okay, welcome back. The installation is successful and we are ready to connect to our server. This is my desktop machine. We will be connecting to the server via SSH. So as I said before, the server itself is headless, meaning it doesn't have a monitor attached to it. So everything we do will be done remotely, and this is how we go about it. So SSH, we know that the username is root, and we know that in the installation video you saw the IP address as 192.168.0.160, and that won't be the IP address going forward. It's going to be 155. That was just because we were on a virtual machine, and that's whatever IP address was assigned to that virtual machine. But this IP address specifically I have assigned to the server, and I've done that on my router. I've assigned it a static address, so it's always the same. And it's really handy to do that, just because as you'll see later, we connect to the UI of the Proxmox server via web address, and that's the IP address with the port number. And if it's changing all the time, well, that's going to be a pain in the butt. You're always going to have to check the IP address. You're never going to be able to set a bookmark. So setting a static IP address is something I would suggest. And it's going to ask you if you want to continue connecting. It shows you what shows you the key, the SSH key, basically. And you don't need to know any of that. You just say yes, and then you put in our temporary password that we put in, which was something that we talked about. We're going to change that, and that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go password, and we're just going to type Thor twice, and now our password is successfully changed. Okay, so let's clear this. The first thing I really want to do is just to kind of take a look around, kind of familiarize ourselves with the environment. And so let's take a look at PVE version, which is the version of Proxmox that we're currently running. We're running 9.2.2, which, as I said before, it's the most recent version, 9.2. We'll check our CPUs. LS CPU just lists our CPU and the stats about it. So the server I bought is a Z640, HP Z640. It's a server from 2014. It came with dual CPUs, so I have two Xeon CPUs, E5, 2643, whatever, and they're both being recognized. You can see the both here. We have node 0 with CPU and node 0 with the CPU. So both CPUs are recognized. Our max megahertz and minimum megahertz, everything's there. So we're good there. The server also came with 32 gigs of RAM, and I bought another 32 gigs of DDR4 server RAM. So if you do buy a server, just remember that server RAM is not the same as the kind of RAM you put in your PC. So all of the RAM that we've got installed is being recognized as well, which is great. Super fantastic. We're really happy about that. We'll check our drives as well. LS, BLK. It lists all block devices. And a block device is just like a USB drive, a hard drive, a solid state drive as this. This is a DVD-ROM that's installed on the server. And so this is the hard drive we installed Proxmox on. You can see it's got a bunch of different partitions. That'd be the OS partition, and this is all any data, stores any data in these partitions here. But we won't be using any of that. We are going to mount this drive and set this up as our data storage for Proxmox, just because I don't want to fill this tiny little hard drive up with unnecessary junk. So I think that'll be the first thing we do here. We're going to clear that. We'll go make directory. -p means the -p means basically MNT is the parent directory of data, so we're trying to create the data directory, but if MNT doesn't exist, -p will make sure that it creates as well. And so we make the directory, then we're gonna go edit the file system table so that it mounts this directory to a specific drive. But first thing we need to do is get the ID of that drive. We know that that drive was called SDA1, but if you can't remember, you just type lsblk. Here's your SDA1. That's the partition we want to use, and we're just going to copy the UUID of the SDA1 drive, and I've got the command typed over on my other screen here. Copy that. Another thing about copying pasting in Ubuntu here is when you're in the terminal, you can't just Control-C and Control-V for copy and paste. You have to Control-Shift-C to copy and Control-Shift-V to paste, and that's because Control-C actually does something else. I don't know if Control-V does, but Control-C is your cancel command. So if you're running something on, if you're running something like, I'll show you here. I have speed test installed on my Ubuntu machine, just so I can, double check anytime I need to whether or not my connection is doing well. So it'll start running. If I hit Control C, it just cancels. Whatever's running, whatever it's doing, it just cancels. All right, back to what we were talking about. SDA1, we are going to set this up in the file system table so that every time we boot, I just did Control C without thinking about it. Every time we boot, it's going to mount it to this ID. And you can do it by the name as well, but if you change the name, then you're going to lose the mount each time you boot. So it's just safer to do it using the UUID here. Okay, so we'll go into the file system table configuration file, fstab, and I'm going to copy and paste the command at the very bottom. Control Shift and V. So the UUID is the one we had. /mount data is the folder we want mounted. That's the file system that it's written in. This is basically just standard default mount options. And the 0 and the 2 are, it tells it not to dump the file system, and it tells it 0 is 0. It tells it not to dump the file system, if that means anything to you. And 2 means to run file system checks on boot after the root drive has had file system checks, and that's all there is to that. So this is Nano that we're in now. To get in and out of Nano, you just type Nano and then a file name to get into it. But to get out of it, you got to save it first if you want to. So Control O, and then it asks write to file, and you just press Enter, and then Control X, exit. Now, after we've done that, we can mount -A, which mount all. It's going to give us an error, but I'll show you what it does. It's going to say your file system table has been modified, and we're still using the old one. So we need to reload system control daemon reload. So we'll just do what it tells us to do. Reload, mount -A. No problem now, clear. And we'll check our drives. ls blk. SDA1 is now mounted as /mount/data, which is exactly what we want. And now, I didn't do this before, but if we did it before, we wouldn't have been able to see anything here. But now, if we do ls mount data, it shows our 2 folders in there that we have. Lost and found is just like a default thing that I don't know what that is exactly, but it's just always there. If you go to the root directory of this drive that we're in, the SBD drive that we're in, there's a lost and found there too. Go to cd-tilv, or however you say that, and that'll take you back to the home directory. There's nothing in there, and that's how it's going to stay. Okay, another thing you can do is just to go df-h, and that'll tell you how much free space there is on the disks. SDA1, we have 916 gigs free, 88 used, available 782 used, and we're mounted to mount data. Next thing we need to do is, if we do apt update on this server right now to update our OS, we are going to see that it fails. And that is because we're running off of enterprise repositories. It is not signed and you are not authorized, because we are not subscribed to the enterprise. So we will not be able to use these repositories. So we won't be able to update our OS unless we do some stuff. And I'll show you where the sources are. We got to change the repositories basically, and we got to disable the enterprise repositories. I'll show you where they're stored. We'll go ls/user/etc/apt/sources.list.d, and we'll just see there's 3 sources in there. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to come in here. And we are going to edit this file here. We're just going to Control End to go to the end. Enabled : no. Control O to save, enter, Control X. We're going to do it again for ceph.sources. If you just type C, because there's only one file in there, you see that starts with CE. So if you just type CE and then hit tab, it'll autocomplete for you, which is a really handy way to get around. Same way if you were to do PVE, there's only one file starting with P and V, so tab just finishes it for you. And here we're just going to change enterprise to download.proxmox.com/debian/cephsquid, and we're going to change enterprise to no-subscription. And that is all. The signed by key is going to be the same. We're going to Control O, enter, Control X to exit. And last thing we have to do is, again, if we took a look at this, there's only 3 files in there. We're going to create one. So we're going to go nano/etc/apt/so tab. And then we're going to call this pve-no-subscription.sources. And I'm going to copy and paste this in here, and you can pause the video and add this in yourself if you'd like, but this is basically just tells where our pve-no-subscription repository is. It's just off the Proxmox website. There's nothing fishy going on here. It's just all defaulted to enterprise solutions, and we want free solutions. Okay, so Control O, enter, Control X. So we're going to go apt update and full dash upgrade dash y just does, oops, what am I doing here? Dash y just tells this command that if anything comes up and says it's going to, for example, use this much space on your hard drive, would you like it to continue? We don't care about what it's going to ask us. We just say yes to everything. And this might take a little bit. I'm going to mute my mic for a bit, and if it takes a while, I'll fast forward it. Oh wait, failed to... Didn't take very long at all because it failed. And I think I made a mistake here. I didn't add apt to the full dash upgrade. So we did get that same warning, but it's still going to work. The problem was I just didn't add apt. Now we're going to check PVE version again, and I'm pretty sure it's a new, 9.2.3. We're all up to date. So now the next thing we can do, I'm going to clear this. Restart Proxmox pveproxy, and we are going to try to connect to the web GUI 192.168, and so the address is 192.1. It's the IP address of your server, and then the port number is just by default 8006. It'll always give you a warning the first time, at least the first time, maybe more, but it says something fishy is going on. It's risky, it's an unknown, whatever. We know what it is, so we're not worried. And this is the first thing I wanted to show you. When we log in for the first time, it's going to say, if you don't do this, it won't pop up the first time. I'm pretty sure it won't pop up the first time, but if you restart it and you log into the website, you're going to get this pop-up. And now every single time you log in, we're going to get this no valid subscription. And it doesn't matter per se. You just said okay and you can use it. But it's annoying and I don't like it. So I have this kind of a one-liner script that I'll paste in the description. We're just going to paste in and doesn't really matter what it's doing because we're just looking for an end result. Paste that in. System control, restart, pve-proxy again. Log out, Control-Shift-R, and we'll log in, and we are no longer met with our annoying little pop-up. And that's just a quality of life thing. That's nothing more. But like I said, I'll put that script in the description. And now we are in Proxmox UI. The data center is kind of the top level. You can have 10 servers in your house, all running in the data center, and you can control them all through this section of the server environment. And then each server would be a node, and this is my server here. You could have another server here, and individually organize them, and then top level stuff is done here. So right away you notice here we have two storage devices and we have the network for our server. We are going to change, the first thing we're going to do is change these because we don't want to store anything on that 120 gig hard drive. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to our data center, we're going to go to storage, and we are going to, first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove local LVM, which is just the part of the storage that stores disk images and containers. That's gone. Yes. We can't remove the local drive by default, but we can click edit and go to enabled and click no. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click add a directory. We're going to just call it data, or data depending on how you like to say that word, and the directory is going to be /mount/data/proxmox. Let me just verify it. I believe that is yes, mount data proxmox, and we are going to enable everything in this sec. So if it's light gray, it means it's enabled. Everything will be stored here. And that's it. Hit apply, and now enabled under data is yes, enabled under local is no. I still think we can't remove it. No, we can't remove it. But it won't ever be used. Everything's going to go to data. And I believe that is all we need to do for this episode. I think we are good. We got the server up and running, we mounted our storage to our second drive, we updated the system, we got rid of the little pop-up, and we are ready to start our first container. In the episode number 2, we will be doing a jellyfin/container introduction episode. I'm just learning all of this as I go. I kind of have like a list I work off of, and so if you're following along, that's great, but mainly all this is really for me to document my own journey through this. But if you're following along with me, that's great. Next episode is going to be Jellyfin server, media server, and intro to containers. So I'll see you there, and thanks for watching.